Exclusive contract from Feilu Novel Network. The female lead and supporting characters in the book work together to change the script. Xia Mengxi enters the book world and is the female supporting character with worrying intelligence. The female lead Jiang Xuefei has the blessing of rebirth and the protagonist's aura, but everything is not going well. Both of them have scripts, one wants revenge and the other wants a happy little life, but they always have a mix of ups and downs, and accidents happen frequently. Female support. Why don't we change the script together, female lead? Feilu Novel Network reminds you that this novel and its characters are purely fictional. If there are any similarities, they are purely coincidental and should not be imitated. Chapter 2. Luming Villa. You are listening at novelfull.audio. It was the peak of summer, and the weather changed as soon as possible. Just now, the sky was clear, and in the blink of an eye, dark clouds covered the sky like night. Occasionally, heavy rain poured down. A group of people and horses galloped along the official road and stopped at the foot of Xiling Mountain. The leader of the group said to a black-clothed man in the middle of the group, "Master, the rain is too heavy and you can't see the road ahead clearly. I'm afraid you won't be able to reach the Imperial capital today. Why don't you find a place to take shelter from the rain first? I know there is a mountain villa on this mountain, so let's go there for a while to take shelter." A person next to the man in black clothes immediately said, "What is that mountain, my lord?" with a hesitant expression. The man nodded and said in a deep voice, "It's okay." Upon seeing the master's agreement, the person in charge immediately led the team to gallop up the mountain. Mu Xingqian rode against the wind and rain, and the cold rain could not extinguish his anger. As the ruler of a country, he was calculated by his most respected uncle, which was extremely frustrating. If it weren't for him being his uncle, he would have dismembered him. Uncle Huang is one of his few legitimate relatives in this world. The Mu family has never been prosperous, and his grandfather only has two sons, Father Emperor and Uncle Huang. His father Emperor only has two sons and two daughters, and Uncle Huang is weak and has no son, only two daughters. When the father Emperor passed away, he repeatedly instructed him to treat this imperial uncle well, and he had always done so. The imperial uncle did not like the noisy life in the imperial capital, so he returned to the Mu family's ancestral home of Huizhou, which was about 3 days away from the imperial capital. A few days ago, I suddenly received a letter from Huizhou, saying that Uncle Huang was critically ill. Mu Xingqian immediately put aside all political affairs and rushed to Huizhou with great speed. Only when I arrived in Huizhou did I realize that Uncle Huang was not sick at all, but I missed him too much. Mu Xingqian was speechless. After thinking about it, he had not seen Uncle Huang for a long time, so he no longer cared. He thought that since he had come, he would stay for a few more days. There were no important matters recently, so he entrusted some small matters to the court officials. This is his ancestral home, and he took this opportunity to pay homage to his ancestors. Uncle Huang was very happy to see Mu Xingqian and set up a family banquet to entertain him. During the banquet, he also introduced the niece of the queen's family to him. Mu Xingqian immediately understood the true intention of the emperor's uncle, thinking that he was just imagining giving him a palace guard. He doesn't mind the emperor's uncle giving him people, as the population of the Mu family is sparse. He also wants to spread more branches and leaves for the Mu family. 5 years ago, when he was the crown prince, he passed away before he could even be conferred the title of crown princess. He didn't even have a concubine, so after ascending to the throne, there was no empress, and there were many women in his harem. However, he didn't have any men or women, so he suspected that he might have a problem and secretly asked the imperial physician. The imperial physician said that he was all normal and very healthy, and that matters related to his offspring were urgent. He followed the fate of heaven to fulfill his duties. Mu Xingqian drank the wine that the woman poured for him and immediately realized that something was wrong. He didn't expect that Uncle Huang could calculate on him. If Uncle Huang honestly told him that he would take this woman, but using such vulgar methods to cook mature rice hit his bottom line. There were also women in the palace who tried to poison him, but he dealt with them. He didn't know if it was the emperor's intention or the queen's, but he bravely suppressed his anger and physical discomfort and left the emperor's mansion, rushing back to the imperial capital with great speed. He came out in a hurry this time, only bringing General Fu Rui, General Shao Kan, and a dozen or so personal guards, all the way at lightning speed, wishing to fly back to the imperial capital with wings. Quickly, the group arrived at the entrance of the villa. Shao Kan knocked on the door and soon a questioning voice came from inside. Who? At the same time, a small window on the door opened and someone looked outside. We are the guardians of the imperial capital. However, due to the heavy rain, we would like to borrow your precious land to take shelter. Would it be convenient for us? He took out his waist tag and showed it to the person inside the door. Shao Kan was very clever. He was afraid that the people in the village would not open the door, so he immediately took out his waist badge. In the Zhou dynasty, all officials were required to wear waist badges with their names and positions engraved on them. Falsifying and using waist badges was a serious crime. When he saw that it was an official, the people in the village dared not open the door. Every time he accompanied the emperor out of the city, he used this fake identity, which was convenient to act without revealing his true identity. He was a famous cavalry general. Please wait a moment, gentlemen. I will inform my master. Before long, the door of the estate opened and a middle-aged man walked out with a smile, claiming to be the butler of the estate. He said, "My master, please come in and rest in the side courtyard guest room. We will have someone to take care of your horses carefully." Mu Xingqian and his group followed the butler to the guest room in the courtyard, which was not only large but also very exquisite. There were 7 or 8 guest rooms that could accommodate more than 10 of them. Shao Kan instructed his subordinates to take turns standing guard, and he and the general manager Fu Rui followed Mu Xingqian into the main room. As soon as he sat down, the housekeeper came in with several maid servants carrying tea, dim sum and clean clothes. The housekeeper said, "It's raining so hard that all the masters are wet. If you don't mind, please change into these clean clothes. They are brand new and have never been used. And drink some hot tea to drive away the cold. The kitchen is not ready before dinner time. Please use some dim sum first." Fu Rui immediately bowed and smiled, saying, "Thank you very much, butler. May I ask your surname and high name, the head of the household? We can also come to the door to express our gratitude tomorrow." "You're welcome, sir. Our head of the family does not have your surname Xia, and he is a doctoral student in calligraphy at the imperial capital's Imperial Academy." The reason why the butler Xia reported his own master was also due to his considerations. The master was not in the manor, and the eldest son happened to return to the imperial capital to handle affairs. Now only the eldest lady is in the manor, so be careful. Fortunately, these people have low social status and do not need the head of the household to personally receive them. He is enough as a butler. If these people were real imperial guards who knew that this was a scholar from the Imperial Academy, Xuanzi would not dare to underestimate them. Although the scholar was only a junior official of the 9th rank, he was also an official. These city patrolling guards were just ordinary soldiers with no rank, but they were difficult to deal with, and Bai was also a member of the government, so it was difficult to reject them. If the other party is not a guard, but a group of people with ulterior motives, let them know that this is not an ordinary family, and even if the name of the Guozijian is revealed, it can intimidate a group of people. After all, the people do not fight against the officials. He had secretly instructed his servants and guards to be careful in their work. Even if the Xia family dared to build a mansion on this ghost mountain, they were not vegetarians. Although the master was a civil servant, he practiced martial arts. Throughout the mansion, from the housekeeper to the girl who burned the fire, he knew how to fight and fight. He really didn't take these dozen or so people seriously. Before long, the housekeeper Xia will regret his clumsiness. After a few pleasantries, the housekeeper Xia retreated and let 2 servants serve in the courtyard. He went to the backyard to report to the young lady himself. As soon as the butler left, Furue immediately approached Yi Mengxi and asked, "Master, how do you feel?" He knew that the emperor had been drugged, but there was nothing he could do. There was no imperial physician around, and although he had brought various medications with him, they were not effective. In fact, it was easy to solve the problem. Just find a woman, but the emperor wouldn't do it. He could only hope that the emperor could hold on. The emperor knows martial arts and is a top-notch expert. He can use his internal strength to dry clothes. Looking at Shao Kahn next to him, his clothes have already dried, and he stands aside like nothing else. Furue is so angry that he can also order martial arts himself. However, he is the only one who is completely wet when not half a bottle is shaken. From last night until today, the medicinal effect in Mu Xingqian's body has decreased, but he still feels uncomfortable. He doesn't want others to see him lose his composure and shakes his head, saying, "It's okay, it's you. Change your clothes." "Thank you, Lord, for your concern." At this moment, Shao Kahn also received a message from the Dark Guard, which was detailed information about the entire Xia family. Seeing that there were no suspicious things, he could rest assured to avoid the rain here and truthfully report it to the emperor. Qingming outing and happy reading. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period. April 4th to April 6th. Chapter 1. World in the Book. You are listening at novel.Full.audio. Xia Mengxi has been in this world of the book for almost a year in a daze. In real life, she is an ordinary elderly homestead woman named Yuan. Every day, she goes to work at 2:00 p.m. and goes home to read novels and swipe her phone. During a night shift, she inexplicably enters the world of the book and just finished reading it, giving the female lead a big thumbs up. When I first woke up, I thought it was a dream. It wasn't until I pinched my arms blue and purple that I finally woke up. However, I couldn't get happy and sat silently by the bed, thinking about various plot points from the book. In the book, the world is a fictional dynasty called the Zhou dynasty. It has been over 50 years since the Zhou dynasty overthrew the previous dynasty and established the country. The founding emperor was very skilled, and his decades in power laid a good foundation for the Zhou dynasty. The second emperor was mediocre, and even trusted treacherous officials to do many wrong things. Fortunately, his reign was not long. The third emperor is now wise and intelligent, with both civil and military skills. Under the current emperor's governance, the Zhou dynasty is peaceful and prosperous. The female protagonist of the novel is the eldest daughter of the Marquis's mansion. During the reign of the former emperor, her father was framed by treacherous officials, and the whole family was sent to the border as slaves. After the new emperor ascended to the throne, her family reconciled and returned to the imperial capital. However, her experience of becoming a slave damaged her reputation. Although the noble women were polite to her on the surface, they all laughed and looked down on her behind the scenes. In some cases, they even made some unpleasant jokes. As a result, the female protagonist felt inferior and fell in love with the second son of the Duke's mansion at first sight during a garden party. How did she know it was the beginning of a nightmare? The second son of the Duke's mansion was a playboy, with some small tricks, captured the heart of the female protagonist. Despite her parents' opposition, the female protagonist insisted on marrying the second young master. Not long after marriage, she was abandoned and her illegitimate sister used the opportunity to visit her and collude with the second prince. Soon after, this dog man and woman killed the female lead. After the female lead was reborn, her eyes became clear, her heart lit up, and her intelligence improved. She embarked on a path of revenge, mistreating scumbags and scumbags. Not only did she capture the heart of the imperial brother Prince Jing, but it also made the current emperor develop a love for her. This is a typical Xuanyuan of the rebirth and revenge of the great female leader. But Xia Mengxi is not a female leader, not a female leader, not a female leader. The important thing is said 3 times. She is a supporting role who rarely appears in the book. In the book, Xia Mengxi is the daughter of a small official in the imperial capital. By chance, she entered the palace and became an imperial concubine. But after the rebirth of the female leader, she destroyed her adventure for revenge. Xia Mengxi finally died alone. Xia Mengxi was very helpless. Originally, she liked the female lead very much, and she liked this kind of refreshing novel about the revenge of the big female lead. However, the problem was that she wasn't wearing it as the female lead, but as the supporting actress who was stepped on by the female lead. Although the female protagonist has encountered difficulties, she comes from a young lady in the Marquis' mansion. She knows everything about music, chess, calligraphy, and painting, and has a first-class beauty in appearance. With the blessing of rebirth, she is meticulous in her thoughts and steps forward. Most importantly, the protagonist has a halo. In the book, Xia Mengxi was a nearly 20-year-old leftover woman before the female protagonist's rebirth. Her appearance was considered to be of the upper middle class, sweet and lovely. She did not carefully describe how she met the emperor or how she entered the palace. And she has already checked and found that she doesn't have any personal space. She even recognized all her personal belongings and ornaments in her room, hoping to see if there are any treasures that can be identified as her owner. Obviously, there is nothing. Xia Mengxi spent a year slowly understanding the world, many of which were not mentioned or mentioned in the book. After all, the book only focuses on describing things related to the female protagonist. The only thing that can comfort Xia Mengxi is that her original family is not bad. Although her father is a sesame seed official, the family has money, land, shops, and estates. Her parents love her without a concubine, and she has an older brother. Even an elderly leftover girl, the whole family does not dislike her and loves her very much. Xia Mengxi originally had a good marriage relationship. The man was the son of her father's colleague, and the two families were equally matched, so they arranged for a child marriage. However, when Xia Mengxi was just 15 years old and had just reached her age, the man passed the imperial examination and was favored by the daughter of the county head. The man regretted his marriage and climbed a high branch. As a result, Xia Mengxi fell seriously ill. Her parents felt sorry for her daughter and sent her to a hot spring villa on Xiling Mountain, not far from the imperial capital. While recuperating, he could forget his sad feelings. This upbringing lasted for 3 years. Over the course of 3 years, Xia Mengxi's illness alternated between good and bad, and she eventually passed away after contracting a cold wind. In reality, her words smoothly passed through and took over her body. She lives in a hot spring villa on Xiling Mountain, a day's drive from the imperial capital. The scenery of Xiling Mountain is beautiful, with strange flowers and plants, birds and animals everywhere, and several hot springs flowing out of the mountain stream. Therefore, even in winter, this place is also lush with greenery. There is also a royal courtyard from the previous dynasty, where the royal relatives of the previous dynasty would come to soak in hot springs and hunt every winter. 50 years ago, in a major war, the imperial relatives of the former dynasty fled in a panic and hid in other courtyards, but were trapped inside. A bloody massacre began, and in order to eradicate the root cause, all the royal families of the former dynasty, regardless of gender or age, were killed, even babies were not spared. At that time, the royal courtyards were like a human purgatory, with screams incessantly heard and blood flowing into the river. It is said that the water in the hot spring pool was dyed red, and all the bodies were dragged to the back mountain to be burned to ashes, truly achieving the goal of destroying the bones and raising the ashes. From then on, people often heard the sound of ghosts crying in the mountains, and Purple Spirit Mountain became Ghost Mountain. Even after 50 years, people still dared not approach. Xia Mengxi's father is a person who does not believe in ghosts and gods. Although he appears to be weak, he is actually a tough and brave person. When his daughter was regretful for marriage, he directly carried a sword to strike people, but 3 or 4 people almost did not hold him down. A few years ago, Lord Xia passed by Xiling Mountain and was attracted by the mountain scenery. He was inspired to buy a piece of land to build a villa. He was not afraid of any grudges and legends. He bought a piece of land in front of the mountain at an extremely low price and built a hot spring villa called Luming Mountain Villa. The construction of Luming Mountain Villa is very unique, and Mr. Xia has put a lot of effort into this villa, preparing to retire here in the future. After his daughter was remorseful, he sent her to Zhuangzi to recuperate. It's raining. In the original work, the heavy rain will rain one day and one night, and the emperor will come to take shelter. The two met in Zhuangzi, but the specific details of the meeting were not described. It was written that shortly after they met, Xia Mengxi entered the palace and became a noble consort. However, after the female protagonist was reborn, she came to stop the emperor. The emperor and the female protagonist returned to the imperial capital together. From then on, there was no matter with Xia Mengxi, and they never saw the emperor until their death. Although Xia Mengxi knows the content of the entire novel, she is still a bit nervous if the female protagonist really comes. She doesn't want to enter the palace, and her intelligence is not enough. Her eloquence is also not good. She is really the kind of person who can only survive one episode in a palace drama. But she doesn't want to end her life alone. Can she have a happy and fulfilling life without going to the palace? It's time to get ready. Xia Mengxi has been secretly planning for a long time. Everything is ready, and success or failure depends on this one. Qingming outing and happy reading. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period. April 4th to April 6th. Chapter 3. Goodbye to the Reborn. You are listening at novel.Full.audio. In the pouring rain, several carriages were struggling to move forward. Jiang Xuefei sat in the carriage, feeling anxious. Hurry up, hurry up, hurry up, never let the two of them meet. Reborn again, Jiang Xuefei only wanted to fiercely retaliate against those two colluding dog men and women, making their lives worse than death, as well as those noble daughters and young masters who bullied and ridiculed her. Since the heavens have given her a chance to be reborn, they want her to keep her eyes open and retaliate well. In fact, she also complained a bit about the heavens in her heart. Why couldn't she be reborn earlier? Before being sent to the border to become a slave, her former slave status was a big stain in her life, and she couldn't wash it away. Even though the emperor has already vindicated their family today, what has become a fact has changed. Can we die again? Can one still be reborn after death? She dare not gamble. Jiang Xuefei thought with resentment that their family had been allowed to return to the imperial capital, and her father had already taken them one step back to thank them. She had originally wanted to go back to the imperial capital with her father, but her father did not allow her to take care of her mother, younger brother, and that damn illegitimate sister and her aunt. After being reborn, she wished she could immediately kill her illegitimate sister who had caused her tragic death in her previous life. However, reason told her to remain calm, plan slowly, and plan carefully. Not a single enemy should be missed. Death is too cheap for them, and making them live is the most perfect revenge, which is her ultimate goal. Revenge has just begun, so I can let it go with my younger sister. Before she reaches the imperial capital, my younger sister has not yet started acting as a demon. Her main task now is to arrive at Luming Mountain Villa in time, so that Xia Mengxi cannot see the emperor. In her previous life, Xia Mengxi met the emperor and rose to the sky, becoming the most favored concubine. My younger sister carefully managed to please and flatter the concubine. At a palace banquet, my younger sister instigated Xia Xuefei to perform singing and dancing, and everyone present covered their mouths and chuckled. They all knew that Jiang Xuefei was sold into a flower tower as a dancer when she was a slave. Shining on her face, trampling on her dignity. Rebirth must ruin Xia Mengxi's opportunity. If you want to become a noble consort, go dream. Be an old lady for a lifetime. You must die alone. Jiang Xuefei didn't know how Xia Mengxi met the emperor. In her previous life, when she arrived at the imperial capital, Xia Mengxi had already entered the palace. She only knew that the emperor went to the Luming mountain villa on Purple Spirit Mountain to take shelter from the rain, and then they met. Later, the emperor specially expanded the villa and connected it to the nearby royal palace. From a distance, the mountains were shrouded in clouds and mist, with pavilions and towers resembling a fairyland, extremely luxurious. So she must see the emperor before they meet and stop him from going up to Xiling Mountain to see Xia Mengxi. But the journey was very difficult, as if an invisible force was stopping her. First, the horse was startled and ran away, then the wheels broke for no reason, and there was no available room when she checked in. It's pouring rain again now, the official road has become muddy and the carriage can't run. It's already evening and we haven't reached Purple Spirit Mountain yet. This is different from their previous life. In their previous life, they returned to the imperial capital very smoothly a month later. Along the way, they passed by Purple Spirit Mountain and vaguely saw the manor on the mountain. They were still thinking about what kind of people dared to build a manor on this ghost mountain. Aren't they afraid of those resentful spirits? Until I become a resentful spirit, I realize that resentful spirits are not scary, only then are they scary. Is it because of rebirth that everything has deviated in its development? She shouldn't have returned to the imperial capital early despite the opposition of her family. She should have made sufficient preparations, but she couldn't wait anymore. The day when Xia Mengxi met the emperor was approaching. Now we can only pray that the emperor will also be affected and not be able to arrive at Luming Mountain Villa on time. Mrs. Zhongyong, who was in the same carriage, saw her daughter constantly frowning and looking worried. She asked, "Feier, what's wrong with you? Do you have anything on your mind?" "Mother, I'm fine. I just thought that this heavy rain might not make it to the imperial capital today. I wonder if I can find a place to stay." "Yeah, this rain doesn't mean to stop either. I don't know how long it will last, I don't know if there's a post station or a village ahead. There seems to be a Purple Spirit Mountain ahead, and there is a Luming villa on the mountain. We can go there to take shelter from the rain." Purple Spirit Mountain. Isn't that Ghost Mountain? No, 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 no. Mother's stories are all legends. Where are there any ghosts or grievances? It happened 50 years ago. Besides, there are no post stations or villages in a few miles around now. Are so many of us sleeping in cars? At this moment, Jiang Haoyang, who had been sleeping beside him, woke up. The young man rubbed his eyes and said, "Mother, haven't you arrived home yet? My legs are stiff. Their family has just been granted amnesty and they don't have any money on them. It was the local officials who sent them some belongings, but they were afraid that they would report to the emperor and wear small shoes after returning to the capital. There was no money, so only 4 small and dilapidated carriages were hired. The 3 of them were crowded in one carriage, and their legs couldn't stretch straight. Darling, it hasn't arrived yet. The rain is too heavy and the carriage can't move. We won't be able to enter the imperial capital today. Let's stay in the village ahead for one night and then enter the city tomorrow." Jiang Xuefei gave her younger brother a white glance. Her mother had always favored her son, and she couldn't bear to let him suffer when life was so difficult on the border. They were all slaves. Originally, everyone worked as laborers on the farm, but her mother pushed her into the flower tower to become a dancer in order to ensure that her son could eat meat. This experience became a stain on her life, and her illegitimate sister and aunt were assigned to another farm to escape a disaster. That's why in her previous life, the illegitimate sister was able to show off in front of her, but she could only endure it and live. After the father was exonerated, the whole family was granted amnesty and their original identities were restored. The mother knew she was sorry for herself and wanted to work hard to restore the relationship between her mother and daughter. She treated her with caution in every way, fearing that she would hold a grudge against her. But later, from the day her mother pushed her into the flower tower, their mother-daughter relationship had already ended, and her mother was also the last on her revenge list. Jiang Xuefei touched her hair, which was a small gesture while she was thinking. The most important thing now was to hurry to Xiling Mountain and instruct the driver to go ahead and notify the butler to lead the way to Luming Mountain Villa. The old butler was also sent to the border with them, and now he is also returning to the imperial capital with them. The only person Jiang Xuefei is grateful for is this old butler. During her most difficult times, it was the old butler who helped take care of her, treating her better than her biological parents. The old butler was taken aback when he heard that the young lady was going to the Luming Mountain Villa in Xiling Mountain to take shelter from the rain. He instinctively wanted to persuade the young lady that the mountain was not very auspicious and it was not good to go there on such a windy and rainy night. However, he realized that there was no other place to stay and take shelter from the rain. Luming Mountain Villa was the only option, so he had to command the carriage to turn and drive towards Xiling Mountain. Qingming outing and happy reading. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period. April 4th to April 6th. Chapter 8. Imperial Gifts. You are listening at novel.Full.audio. Mu Xingqian hugged the little girl and came to the soft bed by the pool. He gently placed the little girl and carefully covered her with the thin blanket on top. He gently caressed the little girl's face and kissed her lovely little mouth before reluctantly leaving. Stepping out of the small building, Mu Xingqian instructed Fu Rui, go outside and call in her grandmother and maid, and take good care of her young lady. Reasonably returning, he also knew that this little girl must be Xia Mengxi, the eldest lady of the Hua family in the intelligence. Fury immediately ran to the garden door and saw a person lying on the ground. He looked at Shao Kan, who said I was innocent and didn't want to either. Fury asked Shao Kan to first untie the acupoints of several maids dressed up, and let them in to take care of the young lady. Grandma Gui and Zishan, Zai got up and ran into Shaozhu. When passing by Mu Xingqian, the strong sense of oppression made Grandma Gui's heart skip a beat. Knowing that this person's identity must be extraordinary, she didn't have time to think about it. Now she urgently needed to see the situation of her own girl. Grandma Gui rushed into the room and saw the girl lying on the soft couch. She quickly rushed over and saw that the girl's face was pale and she had fainted. Her trembling hand gently lifted the thin quilt and only glanced at it. Grandma Gui almost fainted, only to see that there was not a good spot on the girl's body. It was all green and purple, and she quickly covered it without letting anyone see it. Zishan and Zai were both young girls who had not left the pavilion, so they couldn't see them. Grandma Gui hugged the girl and sobbed, while Zishan and Zai were at a loss and were in a hurry to shed tears. Grandma Gui's intestines were bruised from the damage. Every time, she and Zishan took care of the girl's hot springs and bathing together. However, today, she saw that the rain was too heavy and the weather was too humid. She thought about the rice paper made of exotic flowers and plants that the girl was drying in the backyard drying shed. Before she could put it away, she called Zishan and Zai to collect it together, hoping to collect it before the girl finished soaking in the hot springs. The paper that the girl had worked hard to make for a month was wanted to be given to the young master for writing and painting. In just a short while, something happened. Just let Zishan and Zai go to collect it. Why do you have to go? If you don't go, this kind of thing wouldn't happen. Poor girl, why is her life so hard? She got divorced and encountered this kind of thing again. How can she live in the future? After crying for a while, Grandma Gui came to her senses. The most important thing now was to send the girl back to the attic and find a doctor. There was a grandma who came out of the palace in the villa. She used to be a medical woman specifically serving the Empress Dowager in the palace, but as she grew older, the palace let her out. Grandma He and Grandma Li, who was next to her, were cousins. Originally, Grandma He went out of the palace and had many prestigious families and high-ranking officials willing to pay a high monthly fee to invite her to her home. However, she was rejected by Grandma He. She had seen too much privacy in the palace and had not been silenced, which was already a big fortune teller. As she grew old, she only wanted to grow flowers and grass quietly. Grandma He had no children and no one left in her family. With only Li Mama as her cousin, she joined her and came to Luming Mountain Villa, which is a good place for retirement. The Xia family has a simple population, and the eldest son and young lady usually live on the villa. The Xia family treated her like a guest and never treated her as a servant. She has her own small yard and 2 little maids to serve her. Grandma He was also very grateful. The eldest lady, Xia Mengxi, is suffering from depression and illness due to marriage, happens to be able to take care of 1 or 2 of her. In recent years, she has been treating Xia Mengxi. Grandma Gui instructed Zishan to quickly find Grandma He. Zai went to prepare hot water and clean clothes, wrapped the girl herself, and called in 2 rough maids to carry the girl to her bedroom on the 2nd floor. Just as they were in chaos, Mu Xingchen had already walked out of the garden and saw the housekeeper Xia on the ground. He frowned and asked Shao Kan to unlock his acupoints and get up to speak. The butler Xia jumped up and cursed loudly, "You beasts dressed in clothes, pretending to be sheltering from the rain, are going into the mountain villa to do some simple things." Fury immediately scolded, "Shut up, do you know who this is? Say one more word and break your mouth." Xia Guanjia was stunned for a moment, and just as he wanted to continue cursing, Shao Kan came over and tapped his mute hole. Mu Xingchen said coldly, "Let's go." The group returned to the side courtyard, and Mu Xingchen sat in the main seat. Shao Kan brought in the steward Xia and released the acupoints. Mu Xingchen instructed Shao Kan, "Send someone back to the imperial capital immediately, and ask Dr. Zhang from the Imperial Hospital to come over immediately. Also, ask Xia Xuefei to come along." Mu Xingchen took off a jade pendant from his waist and said to housekeeper Xia, "Give this jade pendant to your young lady and let her take good care of it. It cannot be damaged or lost." Furui respectfully took the jade pendant, turned around and handed it to housekeeper Xia with both hands. Upon seeing the jade pendant, housekeeper Xia immediately changed his face and broke out in cold sweat. It was a dragon-shaped jade pendant. Who in the world dared to use the dragon-shaped pendant? Just now, as I cursed loudly, my knees suddenly softened and I knelt down, my hands trembling so hard that I could hardly catch the jade pendant. Fury was speechless, thinking to himself, "Where did your jumping spirit go just now? Steward, please hold on firmly. Damaging sacred objects is a great sin of plagiarism and extermination." The butler Xia tried his best to concentrate and take the jade pendant, saying, "Grass people, grass people, grass people." After talking about 3 grassroots people in a row, he couldn't continue and his mind was in a state of confusion. He wondered if his rebellious behavior earlier would anger the emperor, implicate the Xia family, and implicate the master. Did he hear the emperor call the master over just now? Mu Xingchen waved his hand and said, "Go and send the jade pendant to your young lady." The steward Xia stabilized his mind and respectfully kowtowed to the emperor, saying, "Grass people no, I'll go now. Grass people, please leave." It took a lot of effort to get up from the ground and arched back out. Fury pouted and said in a yin-yang strange way, "I thought it was so powerful when I jumped so high just now. It turned out to be a soft-footed shrimp." Shao Kan smiled and said, "Of course ordinary people are afraid when they see the emperor, let alone he just dared to curse the emperor. It's not good to be scared to death." Furui peeked at the emperor and was startled. The emperor was laughing. It was the first time he had seen the emperor so much that he was satisfied. Basically, in order to maintain his dignity and prevent people from easily guessing the meaning of the Holy Spirit, the emperor's face was always without a smile. Even if he chuckled a few times, it was still a sneer, a smirk, and maybe anyone would be unlucky. Therefore, it was better not to smile when he smiled. But today, the emperor's smile is a heartfelt pleasure. Mu Xingqian is very happy, he has never been so comfortable before. Now he is thinking about how to get the little girl into the palace, and finally finds an interesting girl. He must have enough play to succeed. It's been a long time since he felt this way. He really looks forward to that girl's future performance. Will she still be as spirited and bold as she is today? Thinking of that girl's body, I couldn't help but feel a slight dissatisfaction. She hasn't had all her fun yet, but unfortunately her body is a bit weak. I can't help but toss and turn. He just likes her spirit, and when it comes to doing things, he can't feel comfortable. He really fainted, lifeless, and doesn't have much thought when tossing and turning. Qingming outing and happy reading. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period. April 4th to April 6th. Chapter 4. Fei Yan Yuan Hot Spring Small Building. You are listening at novel full.audio. Xia Mengxi comfortably soaked in the hot spring, which is a true natural carbonated hot spring. Small bubbles covered her whole body, a bit itchy like soaking in soda. What Xia Mengxi is most satisfied with about the entire Luming mountain villa is the hot spring small building in Feilu Garden, which is very rare in modern natural carbonated hot springs and mostly constructed manually. Hot springs are beneficial for the skin, hair, and cardiovascular system. She wished she could soak in them every day. The father of the original owner, Xia Mengxi, had a PhD in calligraphy and was in charge of the affairs of the Imperial Academy and the teaching of calligraphy. He read a wide range of books and particularly enjoyed reading travelogues. When he was young, he also traveled around the world and knew how to enjoy hot springs. He knew that hot springs were a good thing, and frequent soaking in hot springs could beautify and prolong life. When he bought this land, he was interested in the abundant hot spring water here. He built several hot spring pools, big and small, in each courtyard of Zhuangzi, and built a 2-story hot spring building in the most abundant hot spring water area, specifically for his precious daughter. As for those cursed and resentful legends, he doesn't believe them. He believes that the great man stands in the world, fair and impartial, shaking the past and present, and fearless of ghosts and gods. 2 hours ago, Xia Mengxi heard a report from the butler that a guard team from the imperial capital had entered Zhuangzi to take shelter from the rain. Upon hearing the butler's description, she guessed that the emperor had arrived, which was slightly different from what was written in the book. The emperor came by carriage, and the female protagonist was reborn and rushed to the foot of the mountain in time. She pretended not to know that it was the emperor, falsely claiming that their carriage was broken, and requested the emperor's help. From then on, everyone's life trajectory changed. The emperor and the female protagonist returned to the imperial capital together, and Xia Mengxi never saw the emperor until her death. The female protagonist in the book only ruined Xia Mengxi's opportunity, and didn't do anything else because she was busy fighting in the palace, while Xia Mengxi had always lived in the villa and never returned to the imperial capital. The two never met again. So she made 2 preparations. If the plot was like in a book, where the emperor and the female protagonist met at the foot of the mountain and returned to the imperial capital together, it would be easier. She didn't have to do anything and could just close the door and live a comfortable little life. If there is any deviation, she will also find a way to meet the emperor and the female lead, so that they can be together, so she doesn't have to see the emperor or enter the palace. In order to implement the plan, she deliberately withdrew her brother in advance and found an excuse to let him return to the imperial capital. After living in this book for a year, she grew to love it more and more. Her parents and siblings both loved her very much here. Her father was an official in the Imperial Academy, and his older brother was exceptionally intelligent and actively preparing for the exam. Perhaps next year, she could also become the top scorer. Her mother's family has been in business for generations, with money, land, and a shop. Most importantly, her father does not have a concubine. This is simply a perfect family. After the original owner lost his adventure, he couldn't escape the shadow of being regretful for his marriage. He gave up his parents and siblings, self-blaming and self-pitying, and ruined his life for a scumbag. It's not worth it. She is not the original owner, such a perfect family is what she has always longed for. Since she came, she will actively live a better life and will never die alone. Xia Mengxi asked the butler to arrange the guard team to the side courtyard guest room. Without any accidents, the female protagonist was also approaching. As expected, in less than half an hour, the butler reported again, and another team of people came to the village to take shelter from the rain, all of whom were said to be the ladies and daughters of the loyal Marquis's mansion. She asked the butler to arrange the women of the Marquis's mansion to the courtyard next to the guard squad. Xia Mengxi thought to herself, Jiang Xuefei knows that the emperor is next door and will definitely do everything possible to get close to him, so she doesn't have to take action on her own. When these two people meet, Jiang Xuefei's methods will definitely attract the attention of the emperor. They are under the same roof, and something will happen. If everything goes smoothly, the two will return to the imperial capital together. Thinking of this, Xia Mengxi happily went to soak in hot springs, and the most enjoyable moment every day was soaking in hot springs. The hot spring small building is shrouded in mist, with a faint fragrance of flowers floating, making people feel relaxed and happy. That is the fragrance emitted by the dried flowers and plants collected by Xia Mengxi on the Purple Spirit Mountain. Every time I soak in the hot spring, I sprinkle some in the water. The body is wrapped in countless small bubbles in the water, which is a bit itchy but very comfortable. Due to her good physical foundation and long-term soaking in hot springs, 3 years of illness did not cause her original owner's figure to change. Later, after a year of careful care, Xia Mengxi's skin is white, tender and smooth, her hair is shiny black, her figure is plump, and she has a front and back curve. There is a large crystal mirror next to the pool, which her father bought at a high price as an imported product. Looking at herself in the mirror, she has an oval face, willow eyebrows, a pair of peach blossom eyes that are big and bright, thick and long eyelashes, a small upturned nose, a pink water chestnut mouth, and 2 small dimples when laughing. Her whole body is lively and fragrant, with a bright and charming look, and every move is charming. Xia Mengxi was so beautiful that she felt pink bubbles in her heart, thinking to herself that she could live a fairy-like life here. Why bother going to the palace and racking her brains to compete with a group of women for a man? She couldn't help but sing a song. In reality, she loves singing very much, but her natural duck voice is still incomplete. After going to karaoke with her colleagues a few times, no one invited her again. She had to entertain herself at home, especially in the bathroom, which had the best effect. After arriving in this world, she found that the original owner had a very beautiful voice, murmuring softly, speaking beautifully, laughing like a silver bell, especially singing, clear and beautiful like the orchids in an empty valley, like a yellow warbler coming out of the valley. So Xia Mengxi loves singing while soaking in hot springs. Now let's invite the famous singer Xia Mengxi to sing the song, Cool, for everyone. Xia Mengxi started the performance mode, holding a delicate dagger as a microphone. This is a birthday gift given to her by her brother for self-defense, so she can carry it with her for a moment without leaving. As the night gradually cools, the blooming flowers turn into frost. You gaze from afar, depleting all the twilight. Without hesitation, it is difficult to forget each other. The peach blossoms are young and cold. How could you let go of your past life? This vast sea of hearts, pretending to be painless and not too far-fetched, are all illusions. The cool night turns into a river of longing for you, nurturing me like spring mud. Shallow years brush over my lover's sleeve, and fragrant leaves flow into the water. The cool sky is full of flowers, falling into the mortal world and hurting me. Xia Mengxi sang with great dedication, feeling sad and sorrowful, completely immersing herself in the plot, as if she had already transformed into shallowness and was about to jump off the pedestal. She imagined her eyes being dug out, and Su Jin was in front of her, involuntarily pulling out a dagger. My eyes have been with you for 300 years, how could they become yours? Give them back to me. Suddenly, a dark figure rushed in with a strong wind and collided directly with Xia Mengxi. Before Xia Mengxi could react, she felt her head hit hard, and a golden star appeared before her eyes. She then lost consciousness and the dagger fell into the pool. Just as her body was about to collapse into the water, a pair of big hands lifted her and tightly hugged her. Qingming outing and happy reading. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period. April 4th to April 6th. Chapter 6. Hot Springs. Fairy Spirit. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Xia Mengxi is in pain everywhere now, her chest is also painful, her arms are also painful, her legs are also painful, and her whole body is painful. She has experienced this kind of pain before. When she first started working, it was the first time she had this kind of pain with her first boyfriend, so she is not very unfamiliar because the pain at that time was far less severe than it is now. At that time, the two young people were in love and wanted to experience the ultimate happiness described in the book. However, they were clumsy and worked hard for a long time, sweating profusely. Happiness was nowhere to be found, and both of them were in pain. I don't know why men also feel pain in this matter. After calming down, I rode my useless boyfriend under me and beat him up. I felt that my useless boyfriend was even more painful than me, so I balanced my mind. Then there was no more, and I had a psychological shadow over that kind of thing. I was almost 30 years old and never found a boyfriend again. She regained some consciousness, knowing that she was standing with her back against the edge of the pool, hissing in pain. She wanted to open her eyes, but her eyelids were as heavy as lead, and it took a lot of effort to finally open them. However, he was facing a pair of fierce crimson eyes. The man's eyes were beautiful, but very cold. Even though he was moving below, fast and fierce, there was no expression on his face, as if he was fucking her for the sake of it. She was naked in the water, but the man was dressed neatly. This bastard really annoyed her, making my mother shiver with pain. You're dead, and Xia Mengxi doesn't have the mood to figure out who he is anymore. She felt like her arm could move, so she went up to grab this bastard's neck. But as soon as she reached her, she was lifted and pulled down by this bastard. Xia Mengxi immediately realized that compared to that useless boyfriend, this man's strength is not ordinary. This bastard only gently pulled, and her entire arm immediately became numb and unable to move, like a half-paralyzed. Xia Mengxi hated it so much that her teeth were almost crushed. She couldn't control it now, and there were still teeth left. Without even thinking about it, Xia Mengxi directly opened her mouth, tried to support herself, and took a bite close to the man's shoulder. She bites as hard as she hurts, and the strength to breastfeed is unleashed. Xia Mengxi's principle is, even if I hurt you, don't want to be happy. Unexpectedly, this jerk became even more determined. The man's face also showed an expression of surprise and excitement, as if he had discovered something remarkable. The more she gritted her teeth and didn't speak, the more this jerk became. The mouth slowly emitted a bloody and fishy smell, which grew stronger and stronger. Finally, Xia Mengxi was completely unconscious, not remembering whether he had finished the task first or let go of it himself. Mu Xingchen couldn't remember how many women he had seen before. As long as the women were sent into his dragon tent, they were all so naked. Mu Xingchen used to think that his harem beauties, and concubines would look better in their clothes, even if they were undressed. I don't know when it started. In order to maintain a thin and frail appearance, the beautiful women dared not take another bite, causing their front to flatten and their back to collapse. They had no meat on their bodies and were all bones, just like holding a bamboo. Perhaps men all over the world like women who are shy and timid when the wind blows through the willows, but they tend to think that such women are artificial and there is nothing shameful about them, especially his own concubines. They were born to live to please themselves, and in order to please themselves, they even secretly study painting, in order to serve their dragon hearts on the dragon couch, and their pursuit is to maintain their glory, wealth, and the prominent status of the family. If there were emperors, courtiers, concubines, and servants involved in this matter on the bed, it would lose its pleasure. Every woman would come up to cover it up. What is there to cover up for that figure that is even flatter than the imperial robe? Even if he puts on a black hand, no one dares to resist him and tries to squeeze out a sweet smile, which is actually more unsightly than crying. Over time, his femininity faded, but his methods on the bed became darker and more ruthless. Even if he had interest, he would summon concubines with lower status or simply call a palace maid to come and serve him. Mu Xingchen felt that he had lived for nothing in these years. He had never felt so comfortable before. He thought that if given the chance, she would definitely dare to bite off a piece of her own flesh and chew it. This little girl's body protrudes forward and backward, with slender waist and limbs. Once she is weak and boneless in her arms, she looks weak and unable to take care of herself, but in fact, her strength is not small. She doesn't suffer if she tries to mess with her. She bites her mouth directly and almost pinches his neck. She doesn't have any fear at all. With his martial arts skills, she can easily make the little girl relax. But this kind of thing on the bed is only interesting when you come and go. Now, she is no longer a towering emperor, but an ordinary man, a man who does happy things with women. Mu Xingchen remembered the flickering light in the little girl's eyes when she had just woken up, which reminded him of the lake in the summer palace, sparkling but bottomless. This is the little girl who seduces his soul. No, it should be said that she is a little fairy. Mu Xingchen thinks that she must be a fairy that has transformed from the purple spirit mountain and specializes in absorbing men's yang energy. Otherwise, would have lost control and been set up with a soul, inexplicably engaging in a divine fight with this little girl. If we had to say that he wasn't so impatient in the past, he looked at the little girl's warm and fragrant body as if he was addicted. At a glance, he touched it, and it all surged up with excitement, and he couldn't help but want to do it again. Fury has already dug out the courtyard 3 times outside the door with his feet. What's this called? I came to take shelter from the rain, broke into my boudoir, and even forced my luck on the girl. After serving the emperor for so many years, why don't you know he's such a good wife? I only found out why the emperor is a dragon. The nature of dragons is unpredictable, and the emperor's nature is even more elusive than the clouds in the sky. Shao Kan had already hidden outside the garden gate. He had good hearing ability, and even if he hid far away, he could still vaguely hear the sound inside the small building. He was not someone like Fury who had no roots, and the sound coming from inside made him blush. Looking at the group of people lying on the ground, they were even more embarrassed and at a loss. Just now, I saw Xia Butler rushing over with a group of servants guarding the courtyard, wielding knives, guns, and sticks. He was afraid of startling the emperor, so he had his subordinates quickly subdue everyone, point their acupoints, and lay them on the ground, not letting them make a sound. The butler Xia lay on the ground, glaring angrily at Shao Kan, his teeth clenching loudly. He really underestimated these people. Their martial arts were extremely high, and they could control so many of them with just one move. He was foolish enough to just be complacent and not take these people seriously. He committed his own wrongdoing and could not live. If something really happens, how should we explain it to the master's wife and the eldest son? Just now I heard the servant report that those guards went to the backyard garden, and he knew that big things were not good. Sure enough, those were not good people. They went to someone else's house to take shelter from the rain and didn't stay well in the guest house. What were they doing in the backyard? Don't you know that the backyard is where all the women live? I was afraid that the young lady would encounter an unexpected situation, so I immediately instructed the servants to take weapons and rush towards the backyard. However, as soon as I arrived at the garden gate, I was knocked down by someone. Qingming outing and happy reading. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period. April 4th to April 6th. Chapter 7. Changes in Rebirth Trajectory. You are listening at novel full.audio. Jiang Xuefei was anxiously spinning around the room. Just now, there was a lot of noise outside the courtyard, and I don't know what happened. When she first moved in, she sent a maid named Lan Yin to the neighboring yard to inquire, but as soon as she arrived at the door, she was blocked and came back. Lan Yin replied, "Miss, someone has been sent from the neighboring courtyard to guard the door and no one is allowed to enter or exit." Jiang Xuefei glanced at Lan Yin, knowing that the guard was so tight, which further confirmed that the emperor was indeed here. Her plan was completely disrupted, and she didn't expect it to be so difficult all the way, which resulted in time not being well controlled and not meeting the emperor at the foot of the mountain. Since she had climbed the mountain and entered the villa, she had to change her plan. The gate is so tightly guarded, how can we see the emperor? She tried hard to recall what kind of people the previous emperor and Xia Mengxi were. In my past life, I was all focused on that scumbag, and everything around me seemed to have nothing to do with me. Now think about why I was so foolish at that time. The folk customs of the Zhou dynasty were open, and every spring, the imperial capital held a blossoming festival for unmarried men and women. Nobles and commoners could participate as long as they were unmarried, and there were 3 ranking lists. The fairy appearance list compared appearance, the clear charm list compared talent, and the flying hong list compared martial arts. 30 people were selected from each list. And those who make it to the top 10 all have imperial prizes. Unmarried men and women both want to enter this ranking to raise their own value and find a good marriage. Each of the top 10 on the list will receive a prize from the imperial court at the Zhuxia Luyuan garden. Both the Empress Dowager and the Emperor will participate. As the Empress Dowager gets older, she enjoys the excitement, and every time she arrives, she likes to see young people full of vitality and likes to lead the red line. There are many divine and immortal couples in the imperial court who are arranged by the Empress Dowager, so everyone loves and respects the Empress Dowager and hopes to be married by her. The second prince of the Guogong mansion, Lu Yulang, ranked 7th on the Xianzi list and 9th on the Qingyun list. His martial arts skills were slightly inferior and he did not make it to the top 10 on the Feihong list, ranking 29th. Jiang Xuefei first met her at a garden party, where she was deeply attracted by the elegant and talented Lu Yulang. She fell in love at first sight and was unable to extricate herself. After returning to the imperial capital in her previous life, Jiang Xuefei also participated in a competition for Lu Yulang, and achieved excellent results. She ranked 3rd on the Xianzi list and 5th on the Qingyun list. She also wanted to use the competition to restore her reputation in the imperial capital and deserved to be on Lu Yulang. Jiang Xueyan took a sneak glance at the emperor on stage to receive the award and thank him. The emperor and Prince Jing, the beautiful man who ranked 1st on the fairy statue list, are legitimate brothers, so the emperor's appearance is also 1st class. If he participates in the competition, he can easily enter the top 10. Because he has been in the top position for a long time, he still carries a unique aura of not being angry and self-imposing like an emperor. Many of the beautiful and talented women who came to participate in the competition were aimed at the emperor, hoping to achieve good rankings and successfully attract the emperor's attention, ascending to the sky and becoming empresses. Those women were destined to be disappointed because by that time, Xia Mengxi had already entered the palace. At first, no one cared about a daughter from a 9th-rank official entering the palace. Later, she gradually felt that something was wrong. The emperor no longer had a draft, nor did he promote the women in the harem. Even the 3 concubines who held 3 positions were demoted for various reasons, but Xia Mengxi rose all the way to become a noble concubine. Jiang Xuefei gained a great reputation by receiving a reward from the imperial court at the Blooming Flowers Festival, which also attracted countless suitors and caught the attention of Lu Yulang. Originally, everything was going in the right direction, and she successfully married Lu Yulang. However, soon after, rumors spread that she had worked as a dancer in the border area, and it became increasingly exaggerated. In the end, it was simply unbearable, and Lu Yulang became increasingly indifferent to her. At a palace banquet celebrating the birthday of consort Xia, Jiang Xuefei's illegitimate sister Jiang Xuefei praised her dance skills in front of her. Consort Xia was delighted and invited her to dance on stage. At that time, it was just when the news of her becoming a dancer spread like wildfire. She didn't want to dance, but later the emperor spoke up and asked her to perform a Hu Xian dance for the noble consort. The Hu Xian dance, which came from a foreign land, had exposed clothing and exaggerated movements, and was very popular among the people of the Zhou dynasty at that time. She is the legitimate daughter of the Marquis's mansion and the legitimate wife of the second prince of the Duke's mansion. It is a great shame to expose her attire and perform the Hu Xian dance in front of everyone. But the Supreme Emperor spoke, and she had to comply. Although the dance attire had been improved and not as exposed, it was still thin. While dancing, she could see with a corner of her eye that everyone was whispering, covering their faces and laughing. Lu Yulang's face was even darker, while the emperor and the noble consort above did not look down at all. The 2 of them were on the throne, each other being different. Jiang Xuefei was so angry that she vomited blood. Since then, Lu Yulang has never entered her yard again. In fact, their relationship has long been problematic. Less than half a year after marriage, Lu Yulang's playboy nature was exposed, and her illegitimate sister also ran to the government office every day and saw Lu Yulang's brother-in-law, calling him sweet. Jiang Xuefei's first plan now is to turn Xia Mengxi's opportunity into her own, so that the emperor can see her. Xia Mengxi's appearance is not as beautiful as her, and her talent is not as good as her. She is still old, and as long as she meets the emperor first, she will definitely show her good qualities to the emperor. In her past life, she could count the number of times she had seen an emperor with just one hand, but through folk rumors and the mouths of her father, old Duke, and Lu Yulang, she also gained a rough idea. Firstly, the emperor likes women with slender figures. The harem is filled with slender and willow-like concubines, while Xia Mengxi has been raising her at home for several years, with an emaciated and sickly figure that is weak and unable to take care of herself. Secondly, the emperor does not like gold and silver, but prefers to collect famous calligraphy and paintings, as well as rare editions of the previous dynasty, Qin scores, chess scores, and calligraphy books. The emperor also enjoys hunting and goes outside the city to hunt for a few days every month. Jiang Xuefei is very confident in her figure, appearance, and talent. From a young age, she was raised according to the standards of the palace lady in her family. However, everything was destroyed in the middle, and she couldn't eat enough or wear warm clothes in the border. Later, she also kept her figure slim and light to dance, and didn't dare to eat too much. Now, she completely meets the emperor's preferences. Now Jiang Xuefei no longer has extravagant hopes for elusive love. In this life, what she wants is power, supreme power. With power, she can trample on all those who have bullied her, with the blessing of rebirth, and eliminate all those who stand in front of her. There was some deviation in this plan because I was too impatient, just reborn, the time was too short, and I wasn't fully prepared. If I had given her another month, things would never have developed like this. Something must have happened outside just now, which is beyond her knowledge. This kind of thing did not happen in her past life because she had never entered the Luming villa before and knew nothing about everything here. Miss, the guards outside have withdrawn. Another maid, Lan Lu, walked in happily. Great, we can now proceed with the next step plan. Lan Yin, go and take out my water blue outfit. Qingming outing and happy reading. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period. April 4th to April 6th. Chapter 11. Xia Xuefei. You are listening at novel full.audio. Xia Juanzi and Xia Xuefei were both angry and afraid now, with mixed feelings in their hearts. Sitting at the bottom, they lowered their heads and pressed their hands firmly on their knees. The emperor sat on the main throne, feeling a bit awkward for a moment. When he first entered, General Furue had already explained the whole story to Xia Xu and comforted him, saying that the emperor would give him an explanation and be responsible to the young lady. Xia Xuefei was so angry that stars appeared in his eyes, and he thought to himself, what responsibility should I take? What agency should I entrust? My precious daughter has been bullied by you, and she is still selling herself at a cheap price here. Can the emperor act recklessly and do whatever he wants? Yeah. The emperor can do as he pleases. In the world, there is nothing but royal soil, leading the land to the shore, and nothing but royal officials. Who in the world can resist imperial power? On weekdays, he, a sesame seed official from the 9th rank, is not qualified to enter the palace to face the emperor. Every year, he is only allowed to enter the imperial palace to kowtow to the emperor at the New Year's great court, which is far and far away. He cannot even see the emperor's golden palace, let alone the emperor. However, now the emperor is sitting on the throne, only 2 meters away from him. Suppressing the urge to pounce and strangle the emperor's neck, Xia Xuefei clenched his fists, his grief and anger indescribable. Mu Xingqian looked at Xia Xuefei in front of him and thought to himself, Lord Xia is not an ordinary person. He must be thinking about how to strangle himself now. When his daughter was remorseful, he rushed into Dr. Lu Suoshue's house with a sword and almost chopped him to death. That incident was quite a stir back then, and wielding a sword to chop down his colleagues was a serious crime. Moreover, Lu Suoshue was the quasi-father-in-law of the princess's daughter, and the princess wanted to help. As a result, Xia Xuefei was almost imprisoned. Fortunately, his immediate supervisor, the Guozijian sacrificial wine, intervened to suppress this matter. Lu Suoshue felt guilty and no longer pursued it. When it reached Mu Xingqian's ears, he immediately developed an aversion to the flower scout, who betrayed his faith, attached himself to the powerful, and had a poor character. What was the use of having knowledge? So I casually gave a small official a release, and the princess even went to his place to make trouble. He simply warned him, and the matter was finally concluded. Mu Xingqian coughed and said, Xia Aiqing, I want to take your daughter into the palace. What do you think? Xia Juanzi stood up and respectfully bowed to the emperor, saying, Your Majesty, your daughter is blessed and may not be able to accept the emperor's favor. In 3 short sentences, the rejection was straightforward. Mu Xingqian was overjoyed. This family is still stubborn and not afraid of death. No matter who it is, they dare to be tough. Fury was sweating anxiously on the side and thought to himself, You idiot, how many people rack their brains and cry to enter the palace, but they can't fulfill their wishes. Now that the emperor personally promises your daughter to enter the palace, her position will never be low. This is grace, that is great fortune, how many generations of blessings your ancestors have cultivated, and you have even taken Zhou. Xia Xuefei, why don't you first ask your young lady about her intentions? This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. What a great fortune it is to be able to enter the palace and serve the emperor. Xia Juanzi cursed in his heart, You eunuch, let me give you this kind of fate. Still bowing respectfully to the emperor, Your Majesty, my daughter has been weak in recent years. Dr. Zhang suggested soaking in hot springs to recuperate, so I sent my daughter to Zhuangzi. I hope my daughter can recover well. If she enters the palace, this recuperation method will be broken, and it may be difficult to cure her again. I hope your Majesty can understand my love for my daughter. Mu Xingqian nodded secretly and thought to himself, Is the little girl weak? She was able to bite off a piece of her own flesh, and when she bit him, the force was quite strong, but she couldn't help but toss and turn. Before he could enjoy it, she fainted. Thinking of the immortal fight in the hot spring last night, she couldn't help feeling a little hot. It's better to take good care of yourself, or Xia Aiqing, there's no need to rush to reply to me. Take good care of your girl first. You can leave first and send in Dr. Zhang. I'm leaving, Wei Chen. Xia Juanzi retreated. Exiting the courtyard, Xia Juanzi turned around and hurried towards the backyard. Since entering Zhuangzi, he has not yet seen his precious daughter, and he doesn't know how her daughter is doing. Dr. Zhang came in and knelt down to kowtow. Mu Xingchen raised his hand and said, "Get up." Dr. Zhang stood up to one side. Dr. Zhang was pulled out of bed last night and wore an inner garment. When he arrived at Zhuangzi, he borrowed Mr. Xia's clothes from the butler and put them on. Xia Xuefei was much taller than him, so the clothes were a bit too big. Dr. Zhang tried to tidy them up as much as possible to avoid losing grace in front of the emperor. Mu Xingchen looked at Dr. Zhang and asked, "How is her body?" "Perhaps her body is sleeping." Dr. Zhang thought to himself that Miss Xia has been sickly all along. Although she took good care of her after regretting her marriage, the illness on her body is easy to cure, while the illness in her heart cannot be cured by even immortals. This year has been much better, but even if she wants to get married, she must take care of it for 10 days and a half a month. But judging from the emperor's intentions, I wish I could go to bed today. If I say 10 days and a half a month, maybe the emperor can kick me with just one kick. This emperor is a master with unpredictable dragon nature, and if he says he will turn his face, he will turn his back. 1 second he will be gentle, and the next second he will be able to kick me violently. Miss Xia from the Xia family really has some skills, which has caught the emperor's attention this time. There were dozens of empresses in the harem who used various means, but none of them could please the emperor. It's rare to encounter something comfortable today, it's strange not to worry about it. Dr. Zhang dared not bully the emperor, so he stuttered and said, "Miss Xia, I'm afraid she still needs some adjustment." If the emperor needs to sleep, the empress dowager in the harem. Without waiting for him to finish speaking, Mu Xingchen interrupted him directly, "There's so much nonsense. Just ask if she can sleep." Dr. Zhang knelt down on the ground with a thud and said, "The emperor has made amends. Miss Xia's body is not suitable for sleeping temporarily." Mu Xingchen frowned and said, "How many days will it take?" Dr. Zhang thought to himself, how anxious the emperor is. But if Miss Xia is not doing well in a few days, wouldn't she be even worse off? I had to grit my head and say, I need to recuperate for 10 days. 10 days. Mu Xingchen frowned and said, "With a weak body, where is the need for 10 days? Don't go back to the imperial capital for now, just wait here. Fu Rui, send someone back to the palace to collect millennium-old ginseng, as well as the lingji that was tribute last year, and give it to Dr. Zhang to prepare medicine. If there are any precious medicinal herbs that are missing, just collect them from the imperial pharmacy and eat them in moderation. Any deficiency or actual symptoms can be cured." Zhang Tai was taken aback by the fact that even immortals couldn't bear to eat ginseng for thousands of years. A few hairs of ordinary ginseng were enough for a little girl, and the emperor was also a martial arts practitioner. At the very least, he had some pharmacology. But now, speaking recklessly shows that caring is chaotic, and he dare not refute it. He can only bow his head and agree. Dr. Zhang stepped down and went outside. Dr. Zhang wiped his sweat. The girl in the Xia mansion is not ordinary now. If she takes good care of herself, she may be able to rise again. However, if there are any mistakes, she will also have to explain her own life. I hope Miss Xia's family is blessed with great fortune. Qingming outing and happy reading. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period. April 4th to April 6th. Chapter 5. Deep in the flowers. You are listening at novel full.audio. Mu Xingchen was very restless in his heart. Since people were also living in the neighboring courtyard, he always felt that someone was peeking at them. Xiao Can had already sent someone to investigate, and those people were the female relatives of the loyal and brave Marquis's mansion who had just been granted amnesty and returned to the imperial capital, and there were no suspicious individuals. In fact, Xiao Can also noticed that someone was spying on them, but for what purpose? These people are all female relatives who have just returned to the imperial capital, and it is impossible to know their identities. Are they disguised female assassins? If you don't understand, why not instruct your subordinates to keep an eye on the neighboring courtyard? After dinner, the heavy rain that poured down during the day has now turned into light drizzle. Mu Xingchen felt bored inside and walked to the corridor to watch the courtyard in the rain. Although it was a guest courtyard, it was decorated uniquely with small bridges, flowing water, rockeries, and a patch of green bamboo. It was evident that the person who built the courtyard was also an elegant person. Out of the corner of my eye, I caught a glimpse of a pink skirt flickering through the moon gate. The moon gate was located in the middle of two courtyards, and next door was the loyal and brave Marquis family. The Zhongyong Marquis was pardoned by him just this year, and his case is complex. When his father believed in slander and acted unilaterally, he sent the Zhongyong Marquis family to the border. He knew that the Zhongyong Marquis was unjustified at the time, but he was powerless. Finally, with his efforts, he changed the execution decision to be sent to the border, trying to protect the Zhongyong Marquis family as much as possible. This year, I finally found an opportunity to overturn the old case and avenge the rebellion of the loyal and brave Marquis. Half a month ago, the loyal and brave Marquis had already returned to the imperial capital to show gratitude to him. He also rewarded him with a lot of gold, silver, and cloth as a way of appeasement. The original house was also returned to him. I didn't expect to meet his family here today. But why do they want to peek here? Has my identity been exposed? It's also possible. Madame Zhongyong should have known her, and in 5 years, her changes will not be too significant. Madame Zhongyong should have met her at a palace banquet before. The wife of Zhongyong Ho used to go to the palace. Her father's concubine Liang and she were sisters. When the loyalty and courage Marquis's mansion was in trouble, the Empress Liang not only did not reach out to save her, but also quickly distanced herself from the Liang family. She cried in front of her father, expressing her determination to leave the Liang family. Therefore, her father only demoted her position and became a concubine. After her father's death, all the concubines in the harem, except for the princess's consort who stayed in the palace, were sent to the royal Tai Chi palace not far from the imperial capital according to the etiquette of the Zhou dynasty, to rest of the year, including the Empress Liang. This time, the return of the loyal and brave Marquis to the imperial capital will definitely cause waves both inside and outside the court. Some people will definitely secretly poke and cause trouble. After all, many people were involved in the case back then, and some of the initiators were still officials in the court. In recent years, he has been collecting evidence, and it happens to be this opportunity to catch all those people in one go. As for these women's dependents, he didn't have time to pay attention and gave Xiao Can a glance. Xiao Can immediately sent a guard to guard the moon gate, not allowing anyone to approach. The rain stopped, and Mu Xingchen walked with his hands back in the courtyard, thinking about the affairs of the court. Unconsciously, he walked out of the courtyard through the moonlight door on the other side. In front of him was a deep bamboo path, and after the rain, the bamboo emitted a refreshing fragrance, making people feel relaxed and happy. Mu Xingchen unconsciously continued walking forward, but Fu Rui, who followed behind, wanted to speak up and stop him. After all, this is not the imperial palace, but someone else's villa. We are guests who come to take shelter from the rain. Without the owner's consent, it is not easy to stroll around the house. However, seeing that the emperor seemed to have been wandering beyond the sky, they dared not disturb him. They exchanged a glance with Shao Kahn and helplessly continued to follow behind the emperor. As the bamboo path twists and turns, we arrived at a very large garden with the words, Fei Yen Yuan, written on the door. It had just rained, and the clouds opened to see the moon. The moon hung high in the sky like a silver bowl, and the entire garden was shrouded in a thin mist, like a dream. A faint singing voice came from the depths of the flowers. Mu Xingchen thought he had heard no more than 1,000 or 800 female singers, but he had never heard such a beautiful voice before. It was gentle and melodious. Singing softly like the babbling water, like the sound of bamboo leaves dripping with dew, with a hint of coquettishness and a hint of allure, capturing the soul and heart. It is rumored that a long time ago, there were cultivators on the mountain who became immortals and carried the entire mountain with them. The mountain was shrouded in purple mist all year round, and many birds, animals, flowers, plants, fish, and insects were refined. From then on, this mountain was called Purple Spirit Mountain. There are strange flowers in the mountains, and fairies in the flowers often appear on quiet nights, singing and dancing under the moon. Have you met fairies yourself? Mu Xingchen seemed to have been taken in by his soul, straight towards the direction where the song came from. In the depths of the flower bushes, there was a small building made of bamboo, and the heavenly sound was transmitted from the small building among the flowers. Mu Xingchen lifted his leg and headed towards the small building. Fu Rui was surprised. In the depths of the garden, there were birds singing and swallows whispering, and it was clear that it was the place where the woman lived. It was inappropriate for the emperor to enter rashly. Although there is no royal land in the world, one cannot casually enter a woman's boudoir. This is not your harem. As an emperor, one should be polite, humble, and gentleman, and pay attention to etiquette. Unfortunately, it was too late to stop. Mu Xingchen had already pushed the door in and Shao Kahn was about to follow in. Fu Rui grabbed him and said, "What are you doing inside?" "The emperor has gone in, of course I also need to go in and protect myself." "Didn't you hear the singing? This is a woman's residence, inside is a woman. What are you doing inside?" "So how did the emperor get in?" Fu Rui rolled his eyes in anger and said, "If the emperor goes in and calls the lucky woman, then you go in and call yourself a hooligan." Shao Kahn had a bewildered expression on his face. "Can I explain it that way when I go?" Mu Xingchen pushed the door into the small building, and the house was made of bamboo. As soon as he entered, he could breathe the fragrance of bamboo. Entering the bamboo tower, the front hall is very elegant and unique, with bamboo furniture and even a few exquisite small bamboo towers and fishing tools placed in the corner. A bamboo screen blocks the back room, and there are bamboo stairs on both sides of the hall, leading to the second floor. Song comes from the back room. Turning around the screen, there seemed to be a dedicated resting place in the back, with bamboo soft beds, small tables and chairs, as well as bamboo chessboards. The chess pieces were actually made of colorful small stones, and a faint mist drifted in from behind the pearl curtain. Passing through the pearl curtain, the scene in front of him immediately tightened his body. He saw a graceful and delicate woman standing in the middle of a semi-open hot spring pool, slightly closing her eyes and singing like tears. Her delicate jade hand was holding a delicate dagger, and with the mournful singing, the woman slowly pulled out the dagger. She wanted to self-destruct. Mu Xingchen didn't even think about it. With a little tiptoe, he rushed over. In a fit of urgency, he exerted too much force and collided with the woman, head to head. The woman immediately softened and fell into the water. Mu Xingchen quickly reached out to hold her. For the first time, Mu Xingchen felt what it meant to hold a warm and fragrant jade in his arms. A woman's body could be so soft, and he only felt that his whole body was hot and dry, even hotter than being drugged by Uncle Huang. Has the medicinal effect not yet passed? Unconsciously, she embraced the woman's slender waist with both hands and pressed her tightly against her chest. A faint fragrance filled the heart and lungs, and Mu Xingchen lowered his head to carefully smell it. Surprisingly, it was the faint fragrance emanating from the woman's body, and his hands slowly hugged each other tighter. Qingming outing and happy reading. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period. April 4th to April 6th. Chapter 9. Courtyard Kitten. You are listening at novel full.audio. Jiang Xuefei changed her clothes and tidied up her appearance in front of the mirror, rehearsing in her heart over and over again how she would behave when she saw the emperor. At this moment, Xuefei pushed the door in and said, "Sister, it's so late. Why are you dressed so beautifully? There are no rules like this, don't you knock on the door when you come in?" Jiang Xuefei angrily said. "I'm sorry, sister. I haven't learned the rules yet. I haven't been taught by anyone in Zhuangzi for a few years, so I can only spin and weave. Why don't you have a dedicated nanny every day to teach me how to treat people?" Jiang Xuefei said wrongly. The meaning of this is that although Jiang Xuefei has no rules and does rough work, she is clean and tidy. The rules that Jiang Xuefei learned in the Flower Tower were specifically taught by her grandmother how to serve noble people. Jiang Xuefei was so angry that she wanted to slap her, but now she couldn't. She had to hold back and not ruin her plan. After calming down her emotions, she said coldly, "If you know you haven't learned well, hurry up and learn. What are you doing here with me? I see that my sister hasn't eaten much all day. I have some small dim sum here. They were bought in the town yesterday. I want to give them to my sister." "No need, it's getting late. You should go back to your room and rest early. You still have to hurry tomorrow. Lan Yin is seeing off Miss Air." Jiang Xuefei wanted to quickly send her, the illegitimate sister, away. Jiang Xuefei was kicked out and angrily said, "Oh my God, you lowly thing. You thought you were a high and mighty young lady, just a prostitute. It's definitely not good to dress up like that at such a late night. Most likely you're trying to seduce someone. You're really a lowly person." On second thought, she couldn't let go of such a good opportunity. She wanted to see what Jiang Xuefei was up to. Lan Le never understood why the young lady was so devoted to the people in the neighboring yard, and they didn't know each other either. When she first checked into the courtyard, the young lady instructed her to inquire about the news of the neighboring courtyard. She was sweet-tongued and eloquent. Taking advantage of the opportunity to fetch hot water from the kitchen, she quickly learned from the cook's wife that they had just entered the neighboring courtyard to take shelter from the rain, which was the Imperial Guard. What is there to inquire about such an inconspicuous guard? Jiang Xuefei instructed Lan Yin to bring over a cage, which was prepared by her other hand. Inside the cage was a beautiful little yellow cat. Yes, she knew that the emperor also had a preference for cats, which he liked. In his previous life, the emperor gave several cats to Xia Mengxi. He liked cats and hoped that the noble consort would like them, but the noble consort seemed to lack interest in cats. This is the only disharmony between them, and Jiang Xuefei knows to make good use of it. Suddenly, Jiang Xuefei felt that the women in the palace were really foolish. They were too weak in delivering food, reciting poetry by the pond, dancing under the moon, and encountering each other on paths. It seemed that the women in the harem were not on the same level as herself, and having the blessing of rebirth was satisfying. Fortunately, she bought a little yellow cat in the small town where she settled yesterday and actually used it. Jiang Xuefei asked Lan Yin to quietly put the kitten into the courtyard next door while there was no one there. The kitten arrived in a strange place, trembling with fear and making meowing sounds, so pitiful. Jiang Xuefei waited in the room, making sure that the people next door had all returned and should have heard them. They were all martial arts masters, and the meowing of the cat was easy to hear. She pretended to be very anxious as she walked and called out, "Amber, little Amber, where are you, little Amber?" I walked through the moonlit door and arrived at the neighboring courtyard. Mu Xingchen was in a good mood and thought that Zhang Tai and Xia Xuefei should arrive early tomorrow morning. This place is not too far from the imperial capital, and he would hurry back and forth for 4 hours. From the intelligence provided by Shao Kahn, he knew that there was a medical woman named Himama who came out of the palace in this village, but he was still worried. Dr. Zhang specializes in consulting concubines in the palace and is best at gynecology. He asked him to take a good look at the little girl and take good care of her. As for Xia Xuefei, it's really difficult to handle. How can I tell him about this matter? I can't just say, I'm here to take shelter from the rain, I've favored your daughter. This was the first time I found it difficult to speak to my courtiers. While Mu Xingqian was pondering how to explain this matter, he suddenly heard a faint meow from a cat. The gentle meow immediately triggered his sharp nerves and he got up and walked in the direction of the cat's meow. As an emperor, he knew that he should not let others know his preferences, as it would give people an opportunity to take advantage. Mother loves cats and has raised several beautiful cats. Since he remembered, he has been playing with the cats she has raised. Once, someone poisoned the mother's favorite lion cat and almost took her in her life. Since then, the harem has banned cats. He knows that cats are innocent, but in a dangerous palace, everything must be careful and cautious. Every time he heard a cat meow, he would always remember the time when he played with it as a child, and the warm and sunny smile of his mother, which was the happiest time of his childhood. Now the mother is gone, the cat is gone, and the happy moments have disappeared. Arriving at the yard, he saw a little yellow cat trembling by the pool. Fury quickly went over to drive the cat away. He knew about the incident where the emperor was poisoned and the rules in the palace. Although this was not the palace, he couldn't be careless. Suddenly, a female voice came over, "Amber, where are you?" "Little Amber." It seemed to be the owner of the cat. A young girl anxiously walked over from the moon gate, calling and searching. Mu Xingqian saw the young girl walk in and glanced at Shao Kahn again. He clearly asked Shao Kahn to guard the moonlit door. How could someone come in so easily? Shao Kahn was covered in a cold sweat. It was his dereliction of duty to make such a basic mistake. Just now, everyone rushed to the backyard to protect the emperor, and he was thinking about how to deal with the servants guarding the courtyard. However, he relaxed here and did not send someone to guard in time when he returned. If there were assassins, he would have to apologize to death. Immediately kneel down and say, "I have neglected my duty. Please punish me, Lord. Write it down first, and then calculate the accounts when you go back. Let's get up." "Thank you, Lord." Mu Xingqian saw the young girl with willow leaves and curved eyebrows, bright eyes and white teeth, a handsome and straight nose, peach cheeks and apricot face, standing tall and graceful. Her fair and delicate skin was like a lotus in the water, and her beautiful hair was casually wrapped in a jade hairpin. She was an unparalleled beauty, dressed in a navy blue dress, like a fairy in the moonlight. The girl was startled when she saw someone in the courtyard and then bowed down with a smile. "I don't know how many adults are here. I apologize for any inconvenience caused." "In the quiet of the night, what are you doing here, little girl?" Shao Kahn asked. The girl seemed to be frightened, tears in her eyes, and said wrongly, "The little girl's cat is missing. I'm sorry to disturb a few adults when I found this place. I'm sorry, but I'm crying." Fury glared at Shao Kahn and said, "What are you scaring the little girl for? Look, they're all crying in fear." Shao Kahn said speechlessly, "I didn't scare her." Mu Xingqian glanced at the young girl, gave a glance to Fury, and turned around to enter the room. Fury quickly picked up the trembling kitten by the pool and handed it to the girl. "Hold on, be careful not to let it run around. Go back quickly, it's dangerous at night." Jiang Xuefei was a bit confused and almost forgot to catch the kitten. "No, it shouldn't be like this. The emperor shouldn't be happy to see the kitten and be amazed to see him again. Ask yourself who you are, then take the opportunity to reveal your identity, pretend to accidentally discover the emperor's identity, and then thank the emperor for his amnesty, and naturally continue the conversation." But what is the situation now, without asking oneself who it is? Is that all? The girl was politely invited out. Shao Kahn, with a cold face, instructed his subordinates to guard the door. He stood in the courtyard and said to the air, "You kid did it on purpose. If anyone gets close to you, don't even take action. Look at me for a joke." No one answered. The only sound in the courtyard was the rustling of the bamboo forest in the wind. Shao Kahn snorted and said, "Boy, I'll settle accounts with you sooner or later. Qingming outing and happy reading. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period. April 4th to April 6th.